that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to be checking out Clash Dawn of Steam from Mad Ape Games. This is for 2 players, ages let's say about 12 and up. It'll take you about an hour to play. It'll get quicker once you know how you're playing the game though. And in Clash Dawn of Steam, you will take control of either the Herald of Fear and the Champion of Hope, and you will battle trying to either destroy part of the city or defend the city from the bad guys. It's going to be on Kickstarter near you very, very soon in the link below, but let's go ahead and check it out and see how it plays. Alrighty then, Clash Dawn of Steam. First and foremost, I want to mention this is the promotional copy of the game I have in front of you. The copy that you get once the game gets funded might be different. I don't think the artwork's going to change though, because as you can tell, it's very, very professional looking artwork. But let's go over the components, and we're going to brush over how the game plays. We're not going to go completely into the details of the game, because there's quite a lot going on here. It's by no means a terribly complex game, but to explain it all would take me a good deal of time. So I'm just going to go over the basic rules of the game and how to play a little bit. So, first and foremost, we've got a handy-dandy rule booklet. It is not good. He has assured me, though, that by the time it gets to you guys, it will be fixed. And that's very, very good, because it is not a good rule booklet. Even though I was able to figure out how to play the game, which is always a big perk. Next, you are going to be playing as one of 2 players. It's a 2-player game. You can either be the Champion of Hope or the Herald of Fear. It's kind of like an Android Netrunner kind of game, where each one is going to play very distinctively different, which is one thing I kind of liked about the game, getting ahead of myself. So, the Champion of Hope is going to be trying to defend these 10 location cards that are going to be out here on the board, whereas the Herald of Fear is going to be trying to destroy them. If they can successfully destroy all 10 of them, well, then they will be the winner of the game. On the other flip side, the Champion of Hope is going to be trying to defend these, and at the same time capture the Herald of Fear's minions. If the Champion of Hope can successfully capture 10 of the minions, then they will win the game. There's also another way to win the game if your opponent runs out of cards in this deck right here. So you want to make sure that you don't run out of those cards, and you want to make sure that you're either attacking over here or capturing minions. So, first, we're going to go over your handy-dandy little cards to here, which will go over your player turn order. I definitely like these. I love when game companies do these. These are clear, concise, and they will really help you figure out what you're going to be doing from turn to turn. Next, you're going to get dice, because this is Clash. It's a battle game. You're going to be rolling dice to do battles throughout the game. You're going to be doing that actually quite often. Next, we're going to take a look at one of your little player cards. You're going to have a player card in front of you. We'll go over what all is on here. First thing is your Treasury. This is how many resources you have. So you're going to start with various different numbers based on your special abilities and balancing and all sorts of things. And you're going to keep track of it. Normally, I think they'll probably include this, but with a 20-sided die. This will go up, this will go down. Sometimes you'll have none of it, but this is what you're going to use to purchase cards from your deck. As you can see, you're going to have your deck in front of you. You get your Fear card, or your Fear deck, and your Hope deck. And that's where you're going to keep track of how much money you have, essentially. Next, each player is going to have their own unique special ability. And there's going to be a bunch of different characters in the game. So, depending on which side you play or which character you play, you're always going to have a unique special ability. And the special abilities, they all felt pretty well balanced. None of them really kind of stunk, which is always good. And then last down here, you're going to have Beast Empathy, or over here it's called Crow's Call. This is going to help you modify your die rolls, but if you modify a die roll, you're going to go down 1 on here. And this number is also how many dice you're going to roll when you're attacking, or when you're being attacked. So you want to make sure you're rolling a lot of dice when you're being attacked, but at the same time, you might need to modify dice roll, especially if it's a big dice roll. So we got a little player card. We talked about that. We have our Fear and our Hope cards. We'll go over real quick what kind of cards are in this deck. As I mentioned, they're all going to cost you a certain number of crystals, which you're obviously going to be keeping track of on your 20-sided dice. And there's 3 main kinds of cards that you're going to have. You're going to have Order cards and Chaos cards, which are essentially the same, but Fear obviously has Chaos and Hope has Order. But normally these ones will let you do something special, like draw from the deck or take cards out of your discard pile and put them back in your hand or something like that. Next, you're going to have allies and what are they? Mercenaries. Minions. Sorry. Allies and minions. Minions, obviously, for the bad guys. Allies for the good guys. And these are going to be the people that are going to do most of your fighting. They're very important. Up here is the cost. Up here is how many dice they're going to roll. So this guy's a pretty big guy. He's going to roll 6 dice when he does an attack or he tries to foil. And then this number down here, which we'll get to in a minute because this is really the heart of the game. The last one you're going to have are the resources, and these essentially, if you play this, because it'll cost you 8 crystals, but once you play it in front of you, instead of gaining 1 crystal at the beginning of your turn, you're going to gain 4 every time. And you can stack these up, so you can essentially be gaining just a ton of crystal at the beginning of every turn. So we got our fate cards here. We went over all the cards. Next, I want to talk about what you're going to be doing during your turn order. Normally, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a card. You're going to start with 5 cards. You're going to draw 1 card from your deck. You're going to gain your resources and add it to your D20. Then you're going to purchase cards. So, as I mentioned, you can purchase the resource cards or the minion cards, or allies, or all those different sort of things. And then you're going to send them off to attack. Now, this is where the real heart of the game is. I'm not going to go too much into the attack because it is somewhat complex when you first start. But we're going to go back to these cards. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, in order to win the game, the Herald of Fear is going to have to destroy all of these different locations. So we'll take a look at a minion. So here we go. We got this guy down here. One last thing I forgot to mention about these cards is a lot of them are going to have unique special abilities, which really add to the flavor of the game. But down here, we're going to see this 3 right here. So essentially that means he's going to need to have 3 fate cards underneath him to successfully destroy this part of your village or town or whatever it is. And at the beginning of your turn, if you have all 3 of those, this will get discarded. These will get sent back to the deck, and you will successfully have destroyed 1 of the 10 that you need to do, and then you'll roll the dice, and some other various stuff will happen. But I'm not going to go into that because there's a lot going on here. Now, so that's how the Herald of Fear is going to be working. They want to fill this number up completely and then survive 1 round, and if they can successfully do that, they'll destroy the thing. Here's the thing, though. If this number is ever at 0, then they will die, and they'll lose this card, which is bad. So essentially, you're going to be trying to keep as many of these on here as you can. Now, we're going to take a look at the allies from the Champion of Hope. Because, alright, we'll take a look at this big guy right here. He doesn't have a special ability, but he's got the number 4 down here. What this means, this is essentially his hit points, his life. If he ever gets 4 on here, he's going to die. So essentially, if you're playing as the Champion of Hope, you don't want to have too many of these fate tokens on you. But if you're playing as the Herald of Fear, you do want to have them on you because they're going to help you score. Now, one more thing I want to go over is how you can win if you are the Champion of Hope, because I mentioned you needed to capture minions. How you're going to be doing that is you are going to be able, every once in a while, to do direct attacks on your opponents. That would mean, so let's pretend we're doing a direct attack here. You're going to roll 6 dice, and if you score a 4 through a 6, that will count as a point. So I would have scored 4. This guy's going to go, he only scored, he scored 1. Which means I'm going to get to randomly take 1 card out of his hand. If it is a minion, which this one is, nice, I will score that, and I have 1 point closer to winning the game. It sounds like it's a really complex game, but once you understand what you're doing, it goes really, really quick. Let me assure you on that. It's just kind of hard to explain. But that, in a real loose nutshell, is how Clash Dawn of Steam is played. Alrighty then, Clash Dawn of Steam from Mad Ape Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, I want to mention, though, before I go to the pros and the cons, one thing I messed up in the review. I forgot to mention the foil attempts, which is very, very important. I mentioned how the minions can die if they get enough fate, or if they lose all their fate tokens, but I didn't mention how that happens. Those are the foil attempts, and the Champion of Hope will be doing that. And they're very similar to the direct attacks where you're going to be rolling die. I just wanted to mention that because I forgot to mention it. Moving on to the pros and the cons of the game, though. I got 2 cons on the game. First, let's look at the artwork. I got this card mat which they sent me, which is absolutely awesome. It's strong, it's sturdy, it's long, and as you can tell, it looks gorgeous. Artwork is not my cup of tea. That's the con. But everyone else has absolutely adored it and been like, whoa, that is really nice looking. I just don't like it, but I can still appreciate that it is absolutely out of this world artwork. But the real con here is this rule booklet. It is bad. It is B-A-D, bad. It is weirdly organized. There's an example on a win condition where it completely contradicts itself like 2 paragraphs down. when we got this, we had to read it like 4 or 5 times before we understood what we were doing, and it really soured us to the game. We're like, oh god, this game is going to be terrible. But moving on to the pros, let me assure you, the game is not terrible. In fact, this is an outstanding 2-player game. They fixed this rule booklet. You got a home run right here. What do I like about this? No. What do I love about this game? I love it. It's got that Android Netrunner feel where you're going to be playing 2 very distinct classes, 2 very distinct characters. When you're playing the Fear, you're not going to feel like you're playing the Hope, and vice versa, which is something I always love in games. I love all the special abilities stacked on top of special abilities, stacked on top of special abilities. As I mentioned, you're going to have resource special abilities, you're going to have minion special abilities, you're going to have your chaos and your order cards, your heroes are going to have special abilities, you're constantly going to be having all these cool different special abilities, which is one thing I really do like. One thing I didn't mention so much in there is that there's a very big deck building aspect to this if you get big into the game. And I like how it's not like a point system or Mage Wars where you got to be calculating points and all that. No, it's just how many cards do you have, and you put a certain number in there, and boom, you're ready to go. So you can have a deck with a bunch of like resources that give you special abilities, or you can have a deck with a bunch of cheap minions, so you can just send them like crazy. You can really mix it up. Speaking of the resource system, I loved the resource system. When I first started playing, I was like, okay, there's some strategy here, but there's not too much strategy. But let me assure you, there is boatloads of strategy going on here because you have to manage how many resources you have because you don't gain too much. Like, if you don't have any resources played in front of you, then you gain 1 crystal a turn. And let me tell you, 1 crystal a turn is not going to cut it. So as much as you want to get all these awesome dudes in front of you who are going to do your bidding, you got to make sure you're balancing everything, or else you're going to get to that turn where you have like 6 crystal and you're like, oh man, I can't do anything. And so there's a lot of balancing in there. I also like the cards, how the cards work. You only get 1 a turn. These are very, very valuable. As I mentioned, you can have a strategy where you got a lot of cheap minions, but if you don't have any cards in your hand, well, you can't play anything. I really did like that. As I mentioned, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. It's outstanding. Not my cup of tea, but it is just drop-dead gorgeous. The theme is very, very thick in this game, and it's even going to get thicker. You guys are going to get like a mini novel, I think, in there. All the cards have flavor text, and if you're big into theme, you will be eating it up because they spared no expenses when it came to theme in this game. Overall, Clash Dawn of Steam started off very bumpy. Bad rule book, but don't let that scare you away. The game is absolutely outstanding. They fixed that rule booklet, as I mentioned. They got a home run with this game. Me and my wife, we really, really enjoyed this game. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for your time, YouTube. That was the review for Clash Dawn of Steam. For more reviews and previews, check back at Bauer's Game Corner.